All right, guys, how we doing today? My name is Daniel, also known as Slam Skills, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. In today's video, I'm bringing you guys a Stasis Hunter build that I think you guys might enjoy. This build did not come from me specifically. A friend gave me a link to some person's YouTube channel where they had this build on there, and I tried it out for myself, and I thought that, hey, this build is actually pretty good, and I think that you guys might enjoy it as well. This build is just absolutely fantastic. I've been using it for like Onslaught as well as like Legend Onslaught, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. We've made lots of build videos on the channel, so if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check out the channel and you'll find some of that. In this video, we're going to talk about the build as well as how you guys can make it yourselves. But if you don't feel like watching the entire video, do not worry. The dim links will be down below in the description where you can immediately apply this build to your loadout and test it for yourself and see if you enjoy it or not. But for those of you that are going to stay and watch, I do appreciate it. Like and subscribe. And let's go. All right, guys, so here we are on the Revenant Hunter subclass, and this is the first thing that we always do whenever we make these videos is that we go over the ability, the aspect, as well as the fragments as well. So be sure to follow along. Silence the Squad, this is the only stasis super for the hunter, so obviously this is a no-brainer. Right here I'm using Gambler's Dodge. Now you don't necessarily have to use Gambler's Dodge. If you prefer to have your weapon like reloaded immediately, you can use Marksman Dodge, but I like Gambler's Dodge because of when you dodge near enemies, as you can see with the description, you get your full melee ability back, and that helps a lot in just spamming your melee since the shuriken freezes or slows down targets. For the movement ability, I have on triple jump because triple jump is the best jump for PvE. Specifically if you're playing like maybe PvP, you could use like maybe strafe or high, but triple jump definitely helps out a lot. And then obviously we have the only hunter stasis melee, which is the Withering Blade. For those of you that remember, this used to be a problem like when it first came out. I don't know if it still is. I haven't really seen that much people running stasis hunter specifically, but when this first came out, it was a problem, and especially in PvP, and that was a pretty fun time. But yes, Withering Blade is the only one there. And then for our grenade, we're using Dustfield Grenade. Dustfield is pretty much the best grenade to use on all like stasis classes for like, you know, hunters, titans, warlock. This grenade just helps in like trapping enemies, and it could definitely hold down like an area specifically, so definitely have Dustfield Grenade on. If you don't want to have that on, you could use maybe Glacier Grenade. Cold Snap, I don't really recommend using it in PvE for hunters, but just go with Dustfield Grenade. And then for our aspects, we have Touch of Winter, where basically, as you can see with the description, Touch of Winter alters the different 3 stasis grenades. Since we're using Dustfield, we get a increased slow field, which means that the bubble is like, instead of it being small, it's way bigger, and we have a little stasis crystal in the middle that we could destroy if any enemies get caught up in that. And then right here we have for our next aspect, Grim Harvest, where if you're defeating a slowed or frozen combatant, that will create a stasis shard, and when you pick up these stasis shards, it gives you melee energy, and also your teammates can pick them up as well, and that will give them melee energy as well. Really good since you're going to be freezing a whole bunch of targets and slowing them down. This will automatically proc like majority of the time, so you'll see a ton of shards on the battlefield for everyone to pick up, and that's just free melee energy for the whole team. For our first fragment, we're using the Whisper of Rhyme. If we pick up a stasis shard, it gives us a small amount of overshield, which falls off after 10 seconds, and collecting more shards will add on to the overshield and refreshes the timer. Since we're using the Grim Harvest stasis aspect and we're making a tons of shards, since we're going to be freezing a whole bunch of targets and slowing them down, you'll pretty much have Whisper of Rhyme up all the time, and you'll pretty much have an overshield that you could count on for harder endgame content. And then for our second fragment, we have on the Whisper of Refraction, where defeating slowed or frozen combatants will give us class ability energy. Since you'll be freezing targets a whole bunch, you'll just pretty much have your dodge back majority of the time. And like I said from earlier, if we're using Gambler's Dodge and we dodge, we get our melee back, so you'll have Withering Blade up a lot. Combining it with Grim Harvest, if you pick up stasis shards, you get melee energy, and that just overall improves the build essentially. Now for our next fragment, we're using the Whisper of Shards, where if you shatter a stasis crystal, it will temporarily boost your grenade recharge rate, and shattering additional crystals increases the duration of this benefit. I believe it starts off at when you shatter a stasis crystal, it starts off at like 5 seconds, and if you do another one, it caps out, I believe, at 9 or 10 seconds. And the longer you keep doing that, you could pretty much have this up like for a long time, as long as you get more stasis crystals to form. For those of you that don't know what a stasis crystal is, it's literally like this right here. This is an example of a stasis crystal, the Glacier Grenade. You destroy it, you'll get a whole bunch of grenade energy back, and that way you could throw more Dustfield grenades and just trap more enemies, essentially slowing them and freezing them, and then having all of this just proc. So make sure you have this on right here. For our next fragment, we're using the Whisper of Impetus, where if you throw your stasis melee and it hits an enemy, it will automatically reload your stowed weapons and grants you a boost of weapon ready speed. Since we're going to be throwing the shuriken and freezing a whole bunch of targets, you pretty much do not have to reload your other weapons in case you do use them. That will automatically be reloaded for you for when you decide to pull them out. And then for our last fragment, we're using the Whisper of Fissures, where it increases the damage and size of the burst of a stasis crystal when we destroy it or defeat a frozen target. Since he's just making it bigger, they will shatter, and it will shatter other enemies as well, and just it looks very nice once you just have all that. With that out of the way, we're done with the subclass. Now we're gonna hop into the artifact mods, and then we're gonna get straight into the armor mods and the weapons that you should use for this build. All right, so here we are now. We're gonna go over the artifact mods first, so make sure you guys follow along. I'm gonna go over it one by one. You guys could feel free to pause and read the description if you want, but these are what I recommend having on, so here we go. All right, so now we're on the mods, and we're going to talk about the helmet first. I do recommend using the Mask of Backers for this build because, as you can see with the description, it replaces your stasis subclass dodge ability with a longer range dodge. So essentially, instead of dodging regularly with a hunter, you'll kind of like teleport up like forward or whatever. It looks weird, but it's kind of quick. It happens like that, and once you do that, enemies can't see you until you come back after shifting. And when you do that, your stasis and arc weapons deal an increased damage for a short period of time. So you get a ×4 damage buff for stasis and arc. It doesn't matter which one. So for instance, if I'm using a stasis weapon and I have that buff and I'm shooting it, if I swap over to an arc weapon, it's going to give me arc boost ×4. Very good. Once you have that, and since you're going to be getting your dodge back a lot, you could pretty much have this just up all the time, and you'll have increased weapon damage for stasis and arc. So definitely have on the Mask of Backers. For our mods, I have on a Minor Rezeal mod, as well as a Harmonic Siphon for stasis weapon final blows to create more orbs of power. I also have on a Arc Siphon, as well as Special Ammo Finder. Moving on to the gauntlets, I have on a Artifice Armor. This is mobility right here. I have on Recovery Forge. We're using Boltering Detonation right here, as well as Momentum Transfer, and then Focusing Strike. With Focusing Strike, it gives you class ability energy when you cause damage with a powered melee attack. Since you will have your shuriken up most of the time, you're pretty much going to be getting a ton of class ability energy. Hence why I said you could have this light shift up and get the increased stasis and arc weapon damage most of the time. Moving on to our chest piece, it doesn't really matter what you run for the chest piece, but I do recommend for whatever content that you're doing that you run what's going to help with that specific content. So if you're dealing with maybe something that's close range, melee damage, far range, you could use sniper damage resist or splash damage. Obviously concussive dampener, that helps out as well. Moving on to the leg armor, strength mod right here. I have on Orbs of Restoration. Since we're going to create a lot of orbs of power, we're going to have this where it gives just more energy to our ability, so we can have the uptime a bit more. And we have on Recuperation right here, where if we pick up an orb of power, we'll get more health. Since we're going to be doing that, that just helps with more survivability, and so that we won't die as much. And then for our final one, we have Better Already, where as soon as you pick up an orb of power, your health immediately starts to regenerate, and like I said, just for survivability purposes. And then for our cloak, Artifice Armor, mobility mod right here, Recovery Forge. I have on Special Ammo Finisher because you guys are going to see in the next page on why I have this on, and I'm using Powerful Attraction as well as Reaper. Now moving on to the weapons, this is the reason why you should have on a Special Ammo Finisher, because we're running double special. We're using the Aegir's Scepter. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but this came out back in I think season I can't remember what season this came out in, but Aegir's Scepter is too good to not use because of its exotic perk, where final blows with this weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target. And once you do that, it just it kind of spreads it around to everyone, and it just immediately slows them down. And this synergizes with some of our mods or fragments that we have on in the subclass tree in itself. And then with the trait right here, where stasis final blows will transfer ammo to this weapon's magazine from reserves. So if you get a kill with this weapon, you don't have to reload it. It just reloads itself. And if you have the catalyst, it does this right here, but I don't recommend doing that. Try not to hold that button down if you have full super energy, because it will drain the whole thing unless you reload your gun again to stop it. And then over here, we're using the Embedded Kindness from the I forgot the dungeon's name. I think it's called Warlord's Ruin. Very fantastic. This gun right here in itself, I think everyone should have a roll on it. I don't have a good roll. As you can see, Impulse Amplifier, Adagio. It's not a good roll, but it definitely helps out for me. And then for my heavy, I'm using the Hothead You don't have to use a hothead. You can maybe use something like maybe the Wendigo, because that's also arc as well. But I'm using this specifically because of the ×4 damage buff that I do get, and that does help. If you don't want to use the Age of Skepta, you could try out the Stasis freezing bow. I forgot the name of it, but it's an exotic one, so you could use that. Or if you don't want to use that, maybe try like the Unending Tempest Stasis SMG and see if that works out for you. All right, with that out of the way, we have made it to the end of today's video. If you guys did enjoy, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Be sure to check out my previous videos that I did on the channel. I really will appreciate that. Make sure you guys check out my kick. It will be linked down below in the description. I'm gonna try to be streaming games on there. Let me know what games you do want to see me stream on kick, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next Destiny 2 video. Peace out.